So let me also open one more. It was um, US 30. I had the first loss of the week. Um, US 30. So can't really even remember. I think it was, can't remember. I have to open my MT5. So let me do the one I remember first. When I open my MT5, I would confirm. I think it was maybe, yeah, it was here. I remember very well now. I remember vividly. So I had this position here. And in fact, I had my system complete with even an engulfing. I was like, expecting, a proper sell from here. As I said, it was, market manipulation. When you see candles like this, and then they sell after, you just know that it's a liquidity grab. So let me go over my thought process first. So, uh, although on this one, there was no, I've been bearish. I've been bearish for a while. So I was expecting something from the weekly. I was expecting a weekly sweep. And, immediately after this weekly sweep, I was expecting that, price will come into this key level to reject. So going down to the daily, there was no proper breakout as at that time. In fact, the breakout was to the upside. But, the weekly I was expecting that proper sweep, this breakout. I had this breakout prior to that, this this rally to the upside. And I also had this breakout. So, it will make sense even to start expecting sales even from here for price to continue. But, price continued to buy up. So my expectation after was that, the previous weekly high was where price was going. And but how far was it going to go? Because it then swept two previous weekly highs, right? So that's where I got my first loss, because I wasn't going with a candle closure. I was going with a rejecting or a closing, candle. And again, I said this that last time, it's based on like experience. So it's not like it would give you less win rates anyways. But based on my experience, I know where to expect that reversal and I know what to expect as the time for the reversal comes. So I think it was somewhere here that I had, yeah, it was this particular candle that stopped me out. So I don't even really recommend it because, it's based on experience. But for me, I'm not going to take everything, hook, line, and sinker. I would, learn some things by myself in the market. So I was expecting that immediately after this high, this was the previous weekly high. Immediately after I went, I was, looking for a reaction. So again, let me put it back. And I got my reaction. I got my reaction on the 1 hour. Even on the 2 hours, I see that I had yeah, okay. My losses. So mainly I'm done, yeah, okay, so let me go back again. Start. Okay, please just let me know if you can hear me and you can see my screen so I can just continue. Can you hear me? Can you guys hear me, please?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, so just quickly starting up, I was explaining that, I was expecting immediately after this, I was
Sorry, I
looking
can't
for
see
a,
your screen, though.
are you sure?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I can see now.
Okay, great. So I was saying that after this previous weekly high went, my expectation, because I've been bearish, but I'd been, expecting that I'll see a reaction from here to sell, continue the sell. One thing I remember was I was very skeptical immediately after this low went. I was skeptical that it would not be an immediate rejection. And, what we always say is, once external liquidity is taken, price would, there'll be a rejection. However, my overall anticipation was that this low will still go. So for now, I'm not really going to engage much of that. I'm still, looking for sales, to be very honest, because of how this week closed, this previous week closed. So what happened was, for my loss was I got in a bit early on in manipulation. So my daily, I had double breakup structures, but still again, after this low went, there was, this was the rejection that came right after, and taking out the previous weekly high, even two of them, right, up till here. So my expectation was actually that there will be a rejection after this previous weekly high went. So I started to see that rejection right here. And I went down to, just put it here, I went down to my 1 hour to just, confirm that rejection. And I did get it. And that was, I can call it market manipulation, but at the end of the day, it's still my own error. So I had my short position here. I gave some allowance, but still the manipulation was a bit more. I always give some type of allowance, like enough allowance to give me like a 3 or 4 hour. So this was my expectation. So again, immediately after that, uh, breakout, that's it, engulfing. And another thing, anyway, immediately after engulfing, there came the manipulation candle. When you see candles like this before a sell, just know that this is a real manipulation candle. And I'm still going to expect that there will be sell. So that was my first loss. Another thing I was going to say is, um, yeah, so a stronger confirmation for your sales usually is a breakout. Like if you see a breakout to the downside, it's better than an engulfing. So if you see a breakout to the downside, yeah, just know that price is actually ready to begin to sell. Sometimes an engulfing might not give you as much of a solid confirmation as a breakout to the downside. Another thing is, most times the breakout to the downside will give you less RR. But yeah, so that was my trade. I lost this one. The next one I lost was, I think it was on BTC. So so for that BTC, it was an early sell. Um, After last week closed, I was just expecting a couple of sells. So I think I took one very early here, met my overall criteria, we're bearish. I had this key level overlapping that imbalance right here. So, but it was an early sell because most times when you start the week, you might expect more of a reversal of like, and more of internal range liquidity to be taken, to be very honest. So you don't expect like a continuation of sales from the last week. Most times, like you would expect that there will be more buys. I think I also saw something on the daily that was actually indicating that price would. Yes, so there was there was a weak candle closure for sales. Like this, it still closed bullish. So if it had closed bearish, I would have had a better indication that maybe price will actually sell from directly from here. But anyways, it happened even twice because the second one was break even. I think the second one, I had a break even trade here. It sold a bit, but it didn't get to my target. So price got up to here and then bought back. Then the final trade, which I got in, so I had a break-even trade on this one. But then I also had my final was from here. So again, I had, a 4 hour liquidity sweep, you know, and let me check. Yeah, I had a 4 hour liquidity sweep. I should have maybe marked out this key level, but I knew that this whole zone was literally for sale. So if I really wanted to be safe, I might have just covered this high. that will have probably saved me, right, from BTC manipulation, because BTC always manipulates. Like, and this by default, after this sweep of liquidity here, this 4 hour sweep of liquidity, if you go down to the 15 minutes, you will actually see a break of structure right here. So I was actually a bit confident that, there'll be some sales, but look at what happened. Even after that, it ranged. Instead of it to just range and use, maybe this week, as it even did use it. It used this week for some sales, but then it still manipulated and took a lot of people out of the sell. And guess what? In one day, it went to the expected target. Boom. So again, what to learn is, my own, I should have, if I really wanted to be safe, I should have covered this high. It will reduce my RR a lot, but I'll have covered this high. So yeah, so that was that for that. I had a CHFJPY, um, I had a CHFJPY loss for a buy. So I had an overall buy bias initially. I had a buy bias, from here. I think I had this on the weekly. Where was that? I think, yeah, somewhere here. I had a weekly rejection clearly here. And, up to the daily, there was a breakout to the upside. I think it was a weak breakout though to the upside, but this is one breakout. This is, a rejection from this key level here on the daily also. And we also had this breakout right here. So, um, so yeah, we were having series of buys up to here. So which day was it? Okay. So it was somewhere here I got that loss. Let me check, confirm. It was on, sorry, it was on 30th. So the loss was in this candle, this daily candle. So let me go down to the 4 hours. Let me check. Yeah, so the loss was here. I had the loss here. So let me go back down here. I had a daily breakout somewhere around here. Yeah, there was a daily breakout here. So there was this low, and then there was this breakout to the upside, indicating that maybe this reversal was done and there will be a continuation up after this storyline, even though there were double breakout structures, but the assumption was that there was a breakout to the upside. And, there was also a 4 hour confirmation, 4 hour breakout to the upside here. So the expectation was, okay, price will come in here, tap in here, and it did tap. It gave a lot of rejections up here before it started buying a bit. A lot of people got the loss on this JPY pair. So it's not like it's technically wrong. It's fundamentals that caused it. So, however, one thing that could have helped was using the weekly, because the weekly was actually bearish, was more bearish. The most recent break of structure actually was to the upside, but a weak one. But this one was to the downside. All this was to the downside. So there was some inclining. So it's also better that you do weekly if your weekly aligns with your daily and your 4 hours. So it's weaker when it's your daily and your 4 hours only, especially when you are dealing with breakouts. So it's like a counter trend. So that's what happened. So I got a loss here. My broker, like this was a sick candle. This was a sick candle. So I had my entry here. I had a 4 hour, a 1 hour engulfing. It was a weak engulfing, but it was still an engulfing nevertheless. So I had my entry there and I had my stop loss just below here. So, and it was normal RR, but my broker stopped me out right here. Like my SL was double because of slippage. So that will lead us to the wins, which was my best win was this same pair. Immediately after that loss, I didn't even bother. I just closed my. I think I was looking at XAU buys also, but I broke even on that one. So I left it. There was zero revenge trading. There was no need for that. But I kept on looking at this based on this expansion. I went to study why this happened. So when I studied, I realized that there was actually some news, and then I shared that information. So I shared that information based on, JPY intervention, which was, JPY is is quoted, CHF is quoted with JPY. So if JPY is buying, you can expect that other peers that are quoted with it would be selling. JPYX. So this is the fish. Let me check it. Yeah. So you can expect that, if it's buying, it's rallying like this, you can expect that anything quoted with it would be would be selling. So as you see, it's very much correlated with how price gave a reversal buy here. It gave a reversal buy and then gave a continuation sell, a continuation buy here, and then also gave a continuation sell here. There was the same thing with all the JPY pairs. It was the same thing with all the JPY pairs, right? But I was particularly interested in CHFJPY because I traded more than any other of these pairs. It's more balanced. Euro is strong. NZD is also, sometimes might be too weak. UJ2 has USD's fundamentals attached to it. So I just stuck with most times I trade out of the JPYs, I actually trade CHFJPY. All right, so the winning trade, I was expecting, don't forget it's JPY, so it's Asian session that it will be, there will be some reaction. So I was up, and after this expansion, I was literally just looking for a good key level that was, overlapping with that imbalance, right? So I've marked out this zone and I went down to the 4 hours. So in fact, there was a manipulation here too, but again, after not that, because I've learned my lesson before, I always give allowance. But again, it depends on how high the manipulation is. After this sweep, I had a 1 hour engulfing, a weak one. So another thing to note is if you have a weak engulfing, you should be expecting that it might be manipulated or it might not particularly hold. But again, I understood some things with the fundamentals and that this is also another trick that you might want to consider. On the 4 hours, the real the real FVG is this. So I like to have a consequent encroachment, is what's called, of my fair value gap. The consequent encroachment is at least 50% of the gap. And people like even Jaden FVG, that's what he expects most times. So that's what he trades primarily, the 50% encroachment. So once I have that, and this is a very serious sneak peek into what I use. So congrats. Anyways, on the 1 hour, this one, what happened was I got this engulfing. So I had my entry on the 30 minutes actually is where I got my break, a sweep and break. Yeah, I got a sweep and break there. So that's where I got my entry. And, I had my high above here. And then immediately after I even saw this sweep, I was happy because I was like, thank God. The final manipulation had happened. It wasn't too much. So I was comfortable. I think I went to sleep and then I woke up with a bit of profits, not too much, but I woke up with some profits. So that was it for this sell. Same thing. It was from the daily. It was a rejection off of the daily down to confirming with the 4 hours. I think there was some, yeah, always going to align and then matching with the fair value gap, 50% of the encroachment, 50% encroachment rather. So after that, as usual, my entry, my target is liquidity, which was here. And it was, I don't know, 5 point something hour. I closed a bit early because I was even like, I wasn't on my charts, I was on the road. So immediately I saw that I was not very, very sure that price would break here because the news was not confirmed. So I closed a bit early. Should have left it, but I didn't want to come back because I was very busy. I didn't want to come back and see that price would just rally back up and I'll lose all of that profit. So it wasn't necessary. It was okay. So I closed there. So that was for CHFJPY. I could have taken NZD. I remember I had a markup for NZD too. I remember I did, but I didn't take it. I only wanted to take one of them. Otherwise, it would have been some really crazy profits. So that was that. I had something on NZD, but let me go to XAU. I had one good trade on XAU last week, actually, and it was a sell. So let me just see. It was a sell. Before that, let me do XPX. Let me just do XPX 500. XPX 500. How many minutes? We have 8 minutes left. We might have to do another recording. So for XPX, this was it. It was a very wonderful trade. I loved it. It was probably arguably my own. I well, no, I think it was the CHF I loved the most. So for this one, I, I've been trading XPX more often. In fact, XPX 500, yes, someone just recently told me to look at the pair. So that's even why this was my first ever trade on XPX 500. Where did my buyer start from? Breakout to the downside. Um, yeah, so from the 4 hours at a particular time, I had a rejection. I missed this particular trade. So this imbalance was what I was really like looking at for a reaction. And I think it was also New York session. So I had a QM right here. So the logic behind that was simple. So I had this markup even since I remember I sent it to the group chat, to the group, had it like this direct entry here, but I woke up, I don't know when, I saw it late. So, but the logic was simple that there was this high that was rated. I remember this strong candle is always the manipulation. So it was rated properly, and then you had a whole 1 hour break of structure. So that's telling you something. Now, you can have your entry all the way from this fair value gap. So there are multiple points of interest right here. You have the fair value gap. You have this block right here. You have this block right here. Or you can just go with the with the QM. So the QM was this one, right? Which I was just expecting. Let me check if it was on the 2 hours. Can't remember where. So, anyways, within my POI, which was from this QM zone, I had an engulfing. So if you even check my entry was not here, my entry was somewhere here on MT5. So I had that breakout to the downside, and it was simple, a very simple trade. I took it down here. Very, very simple trade. So again, my thought process, we had a breakout to the downside on the daily. Most recent breakout on the downside to the daily we had. I think we even had single candle liquidity or so, not really sure. But breakout to the downside, coming down to the 4 hours, I had a rejection off of this fair value gap, right? So way into the consequent encroachments, but anything from here is better. It's not good for you to be looking anything below 50%, right, of that fair value gap or the imbalance. So from here, after here, you are seeing a breakout to the downside. That's giving you some intel. So if anybody, we might have to continue on Telegram. So you have a breakout to the downside. That's giving you an indication that price has reacted from a solid zone. You come down to the 1 hour and you can just get a QM for your entry, right? So as good, as simple as that, really. I'm still going to be expecting more sales, especially how this 4 hour and oh no, daily is still fine. So I'll be waiting some things out. I'll just be looking at what happens on Monday for this guy. So after that, I had a USD. I had a very beautiful NZD USD trade. I had a very beautiful NZD USD trade. But I only took it on my 25K account. Structure. Yeah, it was here. And it was also a QM trade. So check here. All right, so NZD USD has been bearish. I'd already given us a breakout to the downside on the 4 hours. But let me check on the weekly. Yeah. So another case of weekly. Let me check if we have any message on the group. Okay. So another case of a rejecting candle. I had the previous weekly low gone. So we're in that reversal stage. Overall, to be honest, we had been bearish, right? We had been bearish. So after that sweep, we didn't have a breakout to the downside. We didn't have a direct breakout to the downside, except something here. think I saw something actually. Yeah. So there was something here. There was a sweep of liquidity, and you can call this also a breakout structure, a very weak one, but it's still a breakout structure. When you go to the 4 hours, you clearly see multiple breakout structures, right? So for me, again, I'm just focusing on imbalances, like very heavy market imbalances. So you can call this your imbalance for the 4 hours, right? Your and then again, my green mark here is the 50%. This is 70%. So I had again 50% encroachment, and I am looking for a reaction from here. So coming down to the 2 hours, I've already seen a no on the 1 hour I had a QM, right? So I had this breakout to the downside right here, indicating that price is ready to sell. I also had this sweep of liquidity right here, right? So sweep of liquidity, an internal breakout structure, but this is an external breakout structure, right? Um, but yeah, but I had this internal breakout structure, and then I had my entry somewhere here. And I had So when you're looking at the logic behind this, it's very simple. Like price has gotten weak. Price structurally high, 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 low, high, 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 low, high, high, breakout structure to the downside. And then we are indicating that there's something. If you notice here, there was no proper breakout structure, right? That was actually breaking structure of something that was this is a failure swing, right? Right here is a failure swing. So I just had my sell all the way to here, and immediately after that, there was a reaction, rejection. So um, so yeah, that was it basically for NZUSD. So we have 8 minutes. So I think we'll just take the Q&As on Telegram. But I had nothing clear on Japan 225. I couldn't take, well, I have this for next week, by the way. But I couldn't take it because I could not really see structure. I just saw buys, buys, buys. Not, except if I had taken from here. And most times I don't like taking this far away from the origin, especially on the 1 hour. I don't take it. I don't engage in. It's for me, it's too risky. But logically, this is a sweep of liquidity, and there's also breakout to the downside. So logically, it's actually fine to take it on second thoughts. But I rarely engage in 1 hour sales like this. Really, if you notice my sales, it's either something like this from here or in between a very large 4 hour imbalance. That's what I prefer. But for me, that's why I'm expecting that price would buy. And as you can see how the daily candle closed, you should be expecting more buys first before some sells. So that's my expectation. I think I had something on NAS 100, but I didn't take it. I think at the same time I had a sell, but I didn't take it. Yeah, I had a similar sell, like what I had on XPS5, but I didn't. Final thing, I'll look at XAD, XAUUSD. I had a sell, though I can't remember where the sell happened. Let me go back to the 4 hours. I'll be more familiar with what that looked like. I think I had something here. I missed this after this buy. I missed everything. I think I had something here. If I check MT5. So that was it basically. If I find the XA trade, I would share it. But yeah, I think we can take questions for the next 5 minutes. So if you want to speak, you can unmute. You can just raise your hand so I can check it. XAU on MT5. Yeah, I've seen it. So I don't think there are any questions then. On the 4 hours. Okay, Isaac here. So Isaac, you can go ahead. This one. Okay, I've seen it. This was myself. Right here, this one. Sold it to here. Okay.
Yeah, so I have like three to four questions to ask.
Okay. I mean, so we'll take the
Yeah.
rest on the
So
Telegram group.
okay. Okay. Should I wait to the Telegram?
No, no, no. We have 5 minutes now, so you can ask.
Okay. Okay. So my first question is first of all, when you say weekly reject weekly, daily reject daily, monthly reject monthly, 4 hours reject 4 hours. I want to know what actually are we rejecting? Like, what are we rejecting? What exactly is that rejection we are looking for? And is rejection the main thing we are looking for? That's the first question. Now, the second question is, what do you decide? Like, after you've gotten your okay, second question is, can you help me show me how you build your bias and say, okay, market is going like this, okay, this is where price is going to, how you confirm your bias, your directional bias. And then the third question is, how do you like what do you look out for before you go down to the 1 hour or 30 minutes and take your entry? Like, what are the confluences that need to be met before you decide that okay, this is a trade you're taking and stuff like that? Yeah, so that's my question. I have one other one, but I forgot to I remember ask.
Okay, I've gone over this maybe a number of times. So this is just a typical trade I would take, right? So you ask what is rejecting, or what is daily reject daily, weekly reject weekly. What are we rejecting? We are rejecting key levels. And I've written it many times also, we have five type of key levels. We have the A-shaped key levels, we have V-shaped key levels, we have disrespected V-shaped key levels, we have fair value gaps, we have we have fair value gaps. This is a fair value gap. We have a fair value gap. It doesn't even need to tap into a direct V-shaped key level, right? On the 4 hours, you see it more clearly. It's a fair value. These are fair value gaps, or this is a fair value gap. There's a rejection, right? So you are looking for A-shaped key levels, V-shaped key levels, QM levels. Let me look at this one. This is also a QM level. This is a QM level. I'm looking for key levels like this. This is also a V-shaped key level, disrespected multiple, like once and twice, came back and is being used for a sell, right? So you're looking for fair value gaps. Um, so these are all key levels. Key levels, you don't need to sell from a key level. Price will react from multiple key levels. But what you're looking for is a reaction. And does it match that's when you then go down to the lower time frame. So I have, this is a key level now. You can see there is a reaction, right, from this particular 4-hour key level that actually gave a proper sell. And it's overlapping with, it wasn't even overlapping with a imbalance yet. But, there was a direct break, external break of structure. This one sold. So when I see that, first of all, that, oh, my weekly I'm expecting liquidity to be taken. Maybe I have a single candle liquidity. Let me check. I have single candle liquidity. So once I check, I think we are going to have to join the other call very soon. We have 2 minutes left. So yeah, I think we're just going to have to join the other call very soon so I can address all the other questions. We have a minute. So let's do that. So all that will be for is for questions and answers. So anyone who still has questions, we can still join there.
Or the Telegram.
Yes, on Telegram.
All right.
Okay. Bye. Okay. Right. No worries, Chiswell. We'll handle it on the Telegram call.